All right, everybody, it is the top of the hour, so it's time to get started. Welcome. As we get started, we want a couple of announcements to make you aware of. First and foremost, your audio connections have been muted. This is by no means an attempt to stop you from contributing or collaborating in this discussion today, but really for the comfort for everyone else involved in the demo in the webinar. If you have any questions or comments or conversation starters, please feel free to use the Q&A feature within Zoom. And at the end of our session today, we will have a conversation and answer some of these questions. Additionally, a recording of the session can be made available upon the conclusion of the webinar. So with that, let's get started. Welcome. My name is Shannon O'Toole. I'm a member of our product marketing team here at MediSafe. Today, I am joined by Ryan Janvion, my colleague and friend from business development. Together, we're going to be handling this installment of MediSafe's First Take webinar series, a webinar series focusing on the digital therapeutic trends for pharma in the industry now and affecting the future of pharma as well. Today, we're specifically going to be focusing on how pharma is powering adherence and engagement. We're doing this because as MediSafe, it is our mission to empower patients with technology. This is a mission we've been on for quite some time, and currently we have worldwide more than 6.5 million registered users who depend on MediSafe for all of their medication management needs. We have helped users manage over 2 billion doses, and in doing so, we're empowering them to stay on their treatments. Additionally, we partner with global pharma leaders for the purpose of extending their patient support and medication management in digital channels. We do this to help them increase patient engagement, to improve their adherence and extend their persistence. And we're going to be taking a close look at how we accomplish that today. It all starts by identifying and overcoming those barriers across the patient journey. So with all of our pharma partners and within pharma as an industry right now, everyone has a patient journey map. These maps are used to plot out the points, the barriers, the challenges, and those touch points in all of the patient journeys. We are able to segment all of these challenges or barriers based off of phases of the patient journey. Perhaps you call these phases something different: pre-treatment, treatment, extended treatment, but it's always the same that there's going to be these challenges, those associated with initiation when we're talking about navigating prior authorization or insurance verification, specifically for specialty medications. When it comes to maintenance, managing not only one medication, but all of those medications that a patient is dealing with. And we know from our research, from our patient demographics, that most patients are managing more than one medication if they are in fact on a specialty medication. And when it comes to persistence, how do you extend that treatment and keep patients engaged? And all the while, there are patient challenges, these patient-specific challenges that come up across the patient journey. So you can identify this patient journey, but the reality is that nobody is going to experience this patient journey in this lineated path. This is much more representative of a patient journey, a series of interrelated challenges that are going to come up with a patient, sometimes come up for a patient, sometimes without warnings. All of these barriers also symbolize moments. The moments that matter to improve adherence and extend treatment. If you replace all of these barriers with moments and opportunity to engage patients, suddenly you have patients who are more confident and patients who are a more active role activated in their treatment. Also, when we're talking about digital health, it's really important to note that many of these barriers happen in between patient touchpoints. So within these gaps, patient barriers or patient challenges can be handled with the execution of digital health. And we're going to take a close look at that today. Ryan, why don't you walk us through how we're already doing this today?
Awesome. Thanks, Shannon. Thank you for the introduction. Like she mentioned, my name is Ryan Janvion. I work with business development and our partners here at MediSafe. Like Shannon was mentioning, one of the things when talking with our partners is figuring out and getting them to think about the challenges more cyclically instead of linearly. Like she mentioned, we have to keep in mind that the people that we are supporting digitally are going through their regular lives. And so we oftentimes think of, well, initiation, prior authorization, right? We got to get them on therapy, but tend to forget the fact that a patient might change their job status in the course of their life. And so having to change insurances and having to go through that process all over again. And so we want to be able to think about that. And when we tailor our technology, we're thinking about it and supporting patients in a personal way, as well as holistically. But like we mentioned, this is not, our technology is not a proof of concept. We have real world results. And today we want to take you through two case studies, with the first one being Merck KGaA, one of our named partners. We partner with them to engage their patients. They had a lack of patient engagement. And what we did was we created a branded room for 3 therapeutic areas across 3 different markets for their patients. And these particular medications were more retail medications, so lower cost, higher volume. And on the right, you'll see just the comparison between a regular MediSafe user, so someone that naturally just went to the App Store and downloaded MediSafe and inputted their medications, and the lift that we were able to generate for our partners within a digital companion. You can see we had an average lift of between 8 and 20% for the programs, almost 10% average lift across the 3 different therapeutic areas: diabetes, thyroid, as well as cardiology. And so for people that add MediSafe to manage their medications, naturally they become more adherent. We've developed our platform to really be user friendly, which is why we have so many people naturally joining. But we also are able to prove that additional lift in both adherence and persistence with a branded and partnership program. And one of the things that really drives big results for us is the fact that we are able to engage patients. You can see at the bottom, 73% of patients reported that they were very to extremely satisfied with the program. Ultimately, showing an engaged patient ultimately proves better outcomes for the patient themselves and also for our pharma clients.
Right, I think this is a really significant study to show the impact of engagement. But what I really want to focus on now is the fact that this isn't a one-time only finding. So maybe you could walk us through another case study that really iterates the impact of digital health.
Yeah, for sure. So this next one, our next gen digital companion, this was more of an integrated solution. The client, this was a specialty medication. It was a subcutaneous injection. The client faced challenges with actually getting patients to first fill. So a lot of patients were getting lost in that period of prior authorization where they didn't really know where they stood with getting on therapy, and therefore did not actually get to first fill, as well as just getting over the fear of actually injecting a medication. Oftentimes people that are prescribed that medication, it was the first time self-administering that type of medication. So we created a digital companion to be able to address those matters and really engage patients to meet them at the points that matter, like Shannon was saying. And you can see, our baseline actually in this particular program was from their current patient support programs. So not even patients that were at the bare bottom, but more elevated. So naturally they had a little bit more adherence because they were already engaged. And so that was our baseline. And you can see that we were able to lift adherence an additional 16% from the patients that were already enrolled in their patient support programs to drive great results. 90% adherence was the average adherence rates for our programs. And if you could click to the next, you can see 94% demonstrated engagement, and it had a net promoter score of 56. And just to summarize it, one of the responses that we got just from feedback to the program was they were there every step of the way. And that's really what we aim to do, is to really digitally support and be an extension of the patient support programs that our brands currently have, to be able to digitally handhold patients throughout every step of the process, especially in those moments in time that are extreme pain points for the particular patient journey. And one thing to note is this isn't a one-time thing. These partners are still currently working for us, and are working with us, and we're actually being able to produce results year after year for them.
And it's an excellent point when you're talking about how, with this case study in particular, there were already supportive resources and we already had patients enrolled in these programs. And what a difference the execution of digital health makes in, exactly like you said, those moments matter, being there with the patient and how that really gets them through the barrier that they're facing at any given moment. I love when you talk about the adherence and the engagement in this case study. So why don't we talk a little bit about how we accomplish that?
Yeah, so one of the things, like I mentioned before, is the idea of engaging patients. So how do we do that? So one of the main measures that we like to focus on is the idea of user stickiness, which is, a popular social media term or KPI. And so we measure that by the number of monthly active users that use the app on a daily basis. Almost 70% of our users use the platform on a daily basis, and you can see how that stacks up to the likes of Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, to show it is very powerful. And the way that we're able to do that is because we are not only focused on a particular brand within our partnerships, but we also give patients a tool that they can manage their medications holistically. At the end of the day, patients don't want to be bogged down by using, an app for a particular brand and have, 4 or 5 apps to manage, all of their medications. They want to simplify their lives. They have to go back to, raising their kids or going to work or going to school. And so we have been able to create a tool that not only can we have a brand experience for them, but also just give them a tool that they can manage the rest of their medications, ultimately engaging them and improving their adherence.
Let's get into a little bit more detail. Why don't you talk to us exactly how we do this at each of the barriers or the
Yeah,
phases?
so taking a step back, what we really seek to do is to work with the brand team to figure out what are the areas that are the most pain, are the biggest pain points within the patient journey. So from an initiation standpoint, we've worked with partners where they would say, like, similar to the case study, where 30 to 40% of their prescriptions aren't actually filled. And so we are able to address these challenges by being able to integrate with the likes of hub service providers, specialty pharmacies. We've integrated with the likes of Lash, with the likes of Cover My Meds to pull through that prior authorization process. You can see kind of on the left-hand side that pizza tracker looking thing if you've ever ordered Domino's or something like that, just to keep patients engaged while they're getting onto therapy. And on top of that, we can trigger timely messaging to keep patients engaged and also to set their expectations of what they are going to be facing, to normalize the process and to keep them in the know so that they know what's coming next. And then from more of a medication management side, really what we hone in on is to be able, like we mentioned, to have a dedicated experience within our platform that is particularly dedicated to the brand that we're working with. So as part of the add medication flow, when somebody adds their medication to MediSafe, they'll be opted into this branded experience where they will see content that is branded and that is provided and used by the brand team. So in there, they'll be able to access key information, whether that's injecting or how to take the medication, side effect management. And one thing to note too is this room, as we like to call it, is not just an extension of the website that our brands already have. It's not just a repository of information, but it's dynamic. What we're able to do is to really tailor the experience based upon where that patient is in the patient journey. So we have the ability to trigger surveys and to, as part of the add medication flow, to figure out where they are in the process. So somebody that is new to therapy needs to see information that is very different than somebody that has been on therapy for several months or several years to keep them engaged. And so we're able to do that, and Shannon will walk us through our just-in-time interventions in more detail. But ultimately, the ability to personalize that information and the experience for individuals ultimately is what allows us to produce great outcomes for our partners.
Thanks, Ryan. So we've talked about the when in the patient journeys this happens and the what we're accomplishing. So now let's take a closer focus on how and what does it take to become the next gen digital solution. So after a conversation about how digital health impacts medication management and adherence across the patient journey, let's take a minute to focus on what MediSafe specifically is doing. We are the next gen digital solution because of our ability to make a patient-centric solution. We do this through our flexible platform, as Ryan mentioned, incorporating a dedicated experience within our native platform. We have a scalable solution. This is significant because it allows us to grow with our partners. So establishing and focusing on specific goals and immediate needs, and then extending to reach strategic goals in the future. And we're interoperable. It's really important in this day and age to be able to incorporate functionality from a variety of vendors and create a seamless experience for the patient. And that's what we That's what we're established and able to do. And what powers this next gen digital solution is our GT. GT, what we lovingly refer to as our GT A&I technology. This is our just-in-time interventions, our solution of proprietary technology that is designed to execute hyper-personalized support for each patient. What this does, or what this accomplishes, is creating a dynamic patient profile. So Ryan mentioned the difference between a patient who is treatment naive versus a patient who was treatment experienced. MediSafe, with this GITI technology, is able to take all of the data about the patient in their app on their phone and able to update the persona of that patient as they go along in their journey. Based off of a patient's specific needs, we're then able to proactively position interventions based off of the patient journey for our brands to distribute the proper outputs of support to affect that engagement, adherence, and persistence. So this means we're able to tailor support at each point in the patient journey through our algorithms, our rules engines, and our machine learning data set.
Yeah, so why don't we take a quick look at just some examples? I know it's kind of high level, so we'll provide some examples of just how GT will work. So I'll take John as the male. So John is treatment naive, and John was recently diagnosed with a new indication and a new medication, and he has he has no idea where to start. John, as a typical male, was overloaded with information at the doctor's office and walked out of there and really doesn't know where to go. And so the challenges for John include just understanding how to take his medication, managing his side effects, overcoming the fear of injection. With this case, it's a self-administered injection. So the way that JITI will work for John is to be able to show him how to get on therapy and supporting him through that process, positive reinforcement, in making sure he's taking his medication on time, and also informing him and providing that educational resources at those points that matter to help John understand why it's important to take his medications, how to handle side effects, and where he needs to go in order to get his questions answered, and how to get connected to the support programs that the brand is offering.
That's a great execution or explanation of the execution of GT for a patient type like John. Let's now pivot and talk about how GT differs for a different type of patient. So Sarah is on a different patient journey, and not just because she is a female. We're not going to make it a guy-girl thing, but Sarah is going to experience what she's going through very differently than John. So in this case, she's treatment experienced. So unlike John, who was new to learning all about this particular patient journey, she's been on this journey for a while. Her challenges are more around fatigue. She struggles to manage not only one medication, but several chronic conditions and multiple medications. So this is how GT is going to be executed differently for someone of that persona like Sarah. It's going to be that motivational messaging, getting Sarah engaged on an adherence streak. It's going to include, or it's going to provide her, or suggest for her to manage her measurements. That's going to help reinvigorate her engagement in her treatment. And as Ryan mentioned a couple of times, when we have those life events that change a patient journey, flip it on its head in a moment's notice, if you have someone like Sarah who loses her job and has an insurance update, having the ability to position financial support and copay programs based off of her indication of need in deployed surveys is going to help maintain that level of engagement. So GT, just-in-time interventions, hyper-personalized support at every step in the patient journey and throughout those moments that matter to impact treatment adherence. So we've talked at this point a lot about how digital health impacts medication adherence journeys. And now what you're looking at, this is the first example of what you're seeing of MediSafe's digital companion, that hyper-personalized experience with GT, that on-demand support. It's wrapped around this digital companion that is going to be part of the MediSafe platform. So Ryan, what do you think? Should we get into a little bit more detail now?
Yeah, I think it would be great to take them through the demo for Nordiset. So Shannon will provide an actual live demo of what this would look like in real time, taking on a smartphone.
All right, so thanks. So that's exactly what we're going to do with our simulated brand Nordiset. So what you're looking at right now is the Nordiset experience that's encapsulated within the MediSafe platform. So on the bottom of the screen here, you can see from this home button, this is where the patient is going to manage all of their medications, but incorporated seamlessly into the solution from here, this Nordiset button at the bottom of the screen, this is going to pivot the experience from MediSafe to that branded experience. So everything that you're seeing now is part of that Nordiset brand. So here I have this personalized feed, that hyper personalization that's going to position content based off of my needs and the point that I'm at if I were a patient in this journey. Here, the resource center, this is going to give more real estate. It's going to really invigorate how you're going to have that support, whether it is on-demand resources about getting a medication. For example, when you're going through the process of going through prior authorization and actually scheduling the medication to be delivered. This is a point that we have the ability to have integration or interfaces into existing vendors that you're working with. Also, at that point, you'll be able to schedule the medication and from there have on-demand support about taking a medication. So this Nordiset medication happens to be an injectable. So there are going to be specific help points of guidance based off of that administration route. But if it was an oral pill or something of that nature, it could have that specified support, maybe encouraging patients to grind up the pill if it is too big for them to swallow. So it's going to be that specific on-demand support based off of the needs of that brand. And as we mentioned, you have the ability to incorporate the existing MediSafe functionality. So the ability of tracking measurements that's going to help ramp up that engagement for patients. And from there, as we also mentioned, that copay support. So having the ability to review all of this copay information and have it seamlessly incorporated into the digital companion. So you have the ability to see how this experience is going to grow. It's going to evolve based off of the patient's needs, all incorporated into the proven MediSafe platform that drives up adherence and really ramps up connection with patients. So what we've shown you today in our time together so far, we've focused on the user experience within the MediSafe app, available now from your app stores with that incorporated support from a dedicated digital drug companion. That's just one part of the MediSafe offering. We touched on GT, but there's much more to what MediSafe offers. Our MediSafe Maestro, the tool that orchestrates all of this experience and creates these digital solutions, and Care Connector, our platform for patient support teams to seamlessly communicate as part of that relationship and that bi-directional communication between the app and that desktop or that portal. If you're ready to learn more, we have more opportunities for you to engage with us. There's a Digital Companions, the Future of Holistic Support webinar that's taking place on September 9th at 9 a.m. This is going to be a discussion from industry leaders as they look at how digital companions are shaping the future of digital support for pharma. If you'd like to register for this webinar, we're happy to help you out with that. You can just send an email over to Ryan and he will register and do all the work for you.
Thanks, Shannon. One thing I'd like to add too, we didn't get a chance to go too deep into our capabilities, but hopefully you get a taste of what we can do. I'd be happy to walk you through in more detail, more specific presentation particular to your brand. But one thing is too, our solutions are scalable. So we don't have to start with the whole kitchen sink. We can build up over time. And as we work with partners, we are really focused on the KPIs that we set that determine what success is for a program. But we are already in the market. We already have proven results, and our clients, we have an extremely high repeat business. So our clients are extremely happy with us. We'd be happy to set up a time to connect with you, especially during brand planning and figuring out 2021 strategy. But now more than ever, digital is extremely important with engaging patients, just provided the given situation in our world with COVID and just the distance between HCPs and patients. So we really do fit the bill and just being able to support patients in this new light.
Thanks, Ryan. I know that you've been answering questions as we've been going along, but let's take some time to answer a couple other questions that came in prior to the webinar. So the first question happens to be about implementation and timelines to take a digital companion live.
Yep. So on our side, we can stand up a digital companion and even have a prototype within a month's time, a month to 6 weeks. Obviously it has to go through MLR, which takes the most amount of time. Typically, we factor that in, and so anywhere between 3 and 5 months, depending upon our clients and their process of reviewing and getting MLR review or legal review, however you call it, with internally in your organization. But on our side, we are very nimble and adaptable to be able to stand something up within a month that you can have to see as a prototype.
All right, that's a great answer. The next one I'm going to send over to you. What is the cost of a digital companion?
Great question. So, obviously our solutions are scalable. As far as being able to provide a specific quote, I'd be happy to walk you through what that actually, would look like depending upon your specific needs for your brand.
Okay. Next question, and perhaps we can kind of tag team this one, is how do we modify or how do we accommodate user populations that are elderly or perhaps visually impaired? So maybe I'll take this one and you can
Yeah, go ahead.
tag on. But so as far as the breakdown of our current user population, we have a great success with adaptation and engagement with those users who are older. In fact, more than a quarter, generously more than a quarter of our patients are over the age of 55. So it's kind of a misnomer that our aging population is unable to acclimate to this type of technology, because we've had really great success with that. And part of that reason is the way the experience of our technology that is seamless, and it is meant to be that positive reinforcement. As far as visually impaired patient populations, we support that through the standard functionality that's available within the platforms or within the app store. So within all of the regulations that are put in place by all of your phone providers or your technology providers, we acclimate to that. So we have the ability to facilitate larger text sizes for visually impaired, or to modifying or incorporating the hearing or the audio reminders as well. Okay, so next question. Oh, I love this question. When the patient is not digital or can't engage through digital, is it possible to share one patient profile data to more users or caregivers? So yes, the answer to this is yes. This is functionality that is within our native platform, and it's called MedFriend, and it's designated just for this. So when we're talking about our users, the vast majority of those are patients, but we also have caregivers or support roles as part of those users as well. So with the MedFriend connectivity, this is going to give the caregiver the functionality that they need to stay on top of their loved ones or their patients' medication management. And we have the ability to elaborate that experience based off of the medication needs within our dedicated digital experience. So if you have a certain drug with a juvenile or a pediatric patient type, and so it's going to be mostly caregivers or parents who are going to be caring for those patients, we can set up that experience to reinforce, motivate, and support those types of caregivers. Okay. So, this is a good question too. Something regarding HCPs, but assume this was a D2C product. Can you explain? Happy to explain. So your patients are at the center of everything we do. In that aspect, there is a D2C element, a component of what we do, because people can go to the App Store and download MediSafe at no cost to themselves, no cost. We partner with pharma to create branded experiences. So what that means is that our pharma partners rather, are the ones who are going to be creating that experience specific to their patient population. So targeted specifically to the needs, financial, administrative, and clinical for their patient populations. For where the HCPs come in, we have targeted functionality, or we have solutions for the patient support teams who work in conjunction with patient populations, whether they be from hubs, SPs, or from the pharma brand themselves. In that aspect, we have the functionality to connect seamlessly between the patients and those types of patient support staffs. We also do have functionality available for HCPs, but for that kind of aspect of the conversation, I'm going to direct that over to Ryan, because that's a great opportunity for us to set up a follow-up conversation. Okay.
Yeah, too much time to get into too many details, but yes, we do have those capabilities too. And within the platform as well, patients can monitor and print out reports that they can send to their doctors, either over email or even physically, to be able to show their progress and tracking as far as different measurement trackings, high blood pressure, whatnot, as well.
Okay, so a couple other questions. We're coming up on our time here, but we want to get to all of these questions. Do you tie in with ICD-10 codes? So we do have the ability to associate conditions or indications within our platform. So in that aspect, yes, we provide condition and indication support. Then there are a couple of other questions and a couple other components about these questions that talk about ads or pushing for treatment support. And that is something that we actually plan to tackle in one of our upcoming series about recruitment and how we support patient populations. So another question kind of related to that about app promotion and how we get users, I am going to just leave everybody wanting more and tell you that we have a webinar coming up in the upcoming weeks that's going to focus specifically on recruitment strategies. As far as our patient growth, we do have organic growth, which is much of our 7 million or 6.5 million users is accounted for, but we do have best practices to incorporate MediSafe into brands to promote recruitment and enrollment of patients. All right, let's see. And last question, how many languages do you support and are you HIPAA compliant? So yes, we are HIPAA compliant. We support all HIPAA compliances as well as other security releases. Ryan, do you remember?
GP.
Thank you.
Yep, that one. GDPR compliance.
Yeah.
Languages is 26 different languages.
Yes. Okay, all right, so I think that we have answered all of our questions. We want to summarize by thanking you for your time today. We hope to continue the conversation about the impact of digital health on medication management for pharma and the value that MediSafe provides in that space. So thank you for your time today, and we look forward to working with you or hearing more from you in the future. Thank you.
Take care, guys. Thank you.